My name is Roy Vreeland. I'm a personal trainer. I've been in the health and fitness industry now for over 30 years. And my goal is to be able to create a workout program that anybody can do in the comfort and convenience of their own home. They don't have to join a gym. They don't have to hire a personal trainer. They don't have to go ahead and work out in a crowded, intimidating environment. And they don't have to spend a whole lot of money. The resistance band set that we're using today, you can pick up for less than $30. The DVDs that we're going to make, we haven't put a price on them yet, but we're going to make it in such a simple way where anybody at any age, whether you're 6 years old or 102 years old, you can do these basic exercises. Now, the number one excuse that people have for not working out is they say, I don't have enough time to work out. But statistically speaking, the average person spends 3 hours watching television every single day. So I would love to be able to see every single person around the world while they're watching television, one of their favorite shows, 3-4 nights a week, doing these resistance bands, which again are very simple. You can start off at, matter of fact, when you get sets, some sets have 2 bands, some have 3 bands, some have 6 bands. You can tell by the thickness of the band which is the easiest. The green one on this particular set, which is the lightest one, you do those for the hardest exercises or for the beginner. The blue, which obviously is thicker, much harder, that's going to be for someone much stronger, someone much more advanced. I've been working out for years, and on this particular set, I still use for most of the exercises the red band, which is right smack dab in the middle. As you're exercising, you can look at those marks just to make sure you're in the middle. That makes sense? So I've got it in the middle here. I get a little tension on it. And I'm going to turn now. On the floor here, what I have is 2 things. A clock, so that I can watch the second hand, so that I don't have to count 15 repetitions again, so I can watch television when I'm doing this. But I've also got a tape measure. And the tape measure is going to go ahead and help me to remember the exact distance that I am from the door. Because it's different here than here, than here. So when you're doing this exercise, err on the side of safety and try and be consistent with the distance from the door. So I'm going to come out to my CF line, which stands for chest fly, and this is the first exercise. I'm looking at the second hand on my clock down on the ground. It's on the 3. So nice and slowly, I'm going to do this exercise. Now when you do a chest fly exercise, this is working all the muscles in the chest. It's working all the muscles in the front of the shoulder and all the muscles in the back of the arm. The entire time I'm trying to do this exercise, my elbows are going to be trying to drop, which is the shoulders trying to help the chest. So I want to keep those elbows and wrists going to form 90 degrees. 90% of the correct skeletal alignment is done at 90 degrees. Looking down, I've got 15 more seconds. Breathing is very important. You always want to exhale at the beginning of the first movement. The first movement on this exercise is pushing, so make sure you're breathing. Now I've got on the 3, I'm going to turn around. I'm going to step back to my line that says SR, which is about 12 inches further than my chest exercise, and this is called the standing row. As I pull, this is working all of the muscles in my upper back. It's working the muscles in the back of the shoulder and also the front of the arm. It's called the standing row. On this one, I'm exhaling as I'm pulling because that's the first movement. Now your goal while you're exercising is to tear the muscle tissue down. The medical term is microtrauma. Trauma on a microscopic basis. The way that God created the body hates to get hurt. So when you do this trauma on a microscopic basis, you're tearing down the muscle. Your body responds by building more muscle. The more muscle you have, the more calories your body burns 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, we're on the 3 again. I'm going to step back about another 10 inches. I'm going to bend over. I'm going to get my elbows as high as I can. And this exercise is called a lat pull over. Actually, this one's the lat pull down, excuse me. This is working the largest muscle in your upper body, the latissimus dorsi, they call it the lats. Most people neglect this muscle because when you look in the mirror, you don't see it. But you've got 640 muscles in the human body. And the muscles that you do not use, your body's going to burn as energy. So you've got to go ahead and work every single muscle at least once a week. This workout program, or this series of workout programs, I should say, is made up of 5 different workouts. Each one you can do in less than 30 minutes, working every single muscle. Okay, now the second hand is on the 3. I'm going to come back. This is the hardest of the chest exercises, so now I'm closer to the door. This is called the chest butterfly. When I lift up my elbows and lift up my thumbs and I extend my elbows, the elbows aren't locked, but it's pretty close to being locked. The front head of the shoulder and the back of the arm can't do nearly as much, so it's much harder on the chest. That's why I'm closer to the door. Chest butterfly, they call this. And again, I'm not counting 15 repetitions. If you wanted to count, you could count. But I like to use the clock with the second hand. I've been told that on my iPhone there's a program that I can set a timer and it just dings every 60 seconds, but I haven't figured that one out. 5 more seconds. And now we're doing the lat pullover. So when you do a set, for example, if I did a minute of my lat pullover, and then I rested and did another 15 reps, rested, did another 15 reps. That's called sets, S-E-T-S, sets. And you want to do usually 3 sets of each exercise. If I were to go between 2 different exercises back and forth without resting, that's referred to as supersets. When you do 3 or more exercises, which you just saw 5 exercises, that's called a circuit. So the design of this workout is you're going from one exercise to another without resting, keeping your heart rate somewhere between 50 and 70% of your max. To figure out your max, you take 220 minus your age, that's your maximum heart rate, and then multiply that between 50% and 70%, or keep your heart rate between 50 and 70. I'll be 55 years old this year, so I try never to get my heart rate higher than 120. As soon as I get my heart rate higher than 120, I'm putting such a demand on my body that I'm going to start burning muscle tissue. Now, I'm going right back into the circuit. Exercise number 1 is my chest fly. If you needed to go ahead and rest between sets, or in this case between circuits, go ahead and rest, get yourself a drink of water. If cardiovascularly you're healthy enough to go from one exercise to another, that's the design of the workout. Chest fly. And I think most people, if anyone's actually watching this video, most people should start off with the green band for the first few times. Always err on the side of safety. Do far less than you think you can. Wait a couple days, see how you feel, make the evaluation. Okay, now I'm going back to my row. Standing row, chest up, elbows super tight to my side, leaning backwards. You always want to keep the muscle contracted. Keep it flexed, keep it hard. Don't want to be doing this. So keep that muscle contracted the entire time. Speed of motion is very important too. The first movement on this particular exercise is I'm pulling back. That's called the concentric, C-O-N, concentric movement. That movement only does 20% of your microtrauma, 20% of the tearing. The second movement, this movement right here, that's the eccentric movement, ECC, that does 80% of the microtrauma. So if you're doing this, you're using speed and momentum gravity, you're simply not going to get the results you want. If you're going to take the time, if you're going to spend the 30 minutes to do the workout, you want to do it correctly. You want to make sure you're getting the results. See, I need that timer to ding so I can talk and hear the ding and not lose my focus here. We'll wait for the 12. Elbows super high on this one. Largest muscle in the upper body. Most people, both men and women, they only work on trouble spot areas. They focus on the areas that they want to work on, the areas that look bad in the mirror. And most of the muscles in the back you can't see when you look in the mirror, so people neglect them. 640 muscles. The ones you do not use, you're going to lose. So you can't just focus on trouble spot areas. I was going to bring my music and play my music, and I thought, well, a lot of people probably won't like my music, so they'll listen to their own music. All right, back to the chest. Butterfly. It's getting hot in here now. If you were to Google weight loss industry in the United States of America, or specifically if you wanted to, Google how much do Americans spend annually on weight loss. Most sites are going to quote between 60 and $70 billion a year. 60 to $70 billion Americans are spending on weight loss. Then if you were to Google what percentage of the people that lose weight end up gaining it all back and end up in worse shape than before they started, most sites are quoting between 85 and 95%. Think about that. Billions of dollars, and the success rate is less than 5%. It's a shame. Based on what I've seen, based on my beliefs, based on being paid for trying to get people in shape, I really believe that the most important three things are: you got to eat your little meal every 3 hours instead of skipping meals. That's what most people do, especially breakfast. You cannot skip breakfast. You've got to eat a little meal every 3 hours. Ideally, you want 10, 20, 30. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 grams of fat, 20 grams of protein, 30 grams of carbs every 3 hours. Most people skip meals. Next thing that most people do is they keep their heart rate too high. What's programmed in our brain is no pain, no gain. The more we sweat, the more we breathe, the more fat we're going to burn. It's just not true. The more calories you'll burn, but you don't want those calories to come from muscle tissue. So keep your heart rate between 50 and 70% of your max. Again, take 220 minus your age. That's your maximum heart rate. Multiply it by 50% and 70% and try and keep it in that range. I try and keep my heart rate between 85 and 115, maybe 120. Maybe once a week I'll jack it up to 135 for 10 minutes. The other thing is 640 muscles. If you Google it, it's going to say between 640 and 840. I'd like that extra 200 muscles. A lot of muscles in your body. Most people just focus on trouble spot areas. So you can't skip meals and lose fat. Now, without losing muscle. You can't keep your heart rate high without losing muscle tissue. And you can't just trouble spot areas. You got to work every single muscle group in your body at least once a week. Trying to stay focused on the second hand. Last standing row. So 5 exercises, each one approximately a minute, 15 minutes for its entirety for these 5 exercises, and we've got 2 more that we do with the blue band, standing on the blue band instead of having it in the door jamb like this. Most studies say that in order to condition your heart, lungs, and cardiovascular system, you not only need to get your heart rate between 50 and 70% of its max, but you need to sustain it there for 20 minutes. So the idea is to keep that heart rate in that fat burning zone while you do your resistance training so you can get the entire workout done in less than a half hour. Don't have to spend a half hour doing this and another half hour doing cardio. Here you're killing two birds at once with one stone. Hopefully I'm getting close to 60 seconds per exercise here. And this exercise routine is really for upper body, and not just upper body, but specifically your chest and back. Your shoulders and arms are secondary muscles. They get a little work, but we have a completely different workout routine for shoulders and arms. We'll talk about next time. One more chest butterfly, one more lat pull over, and that completes more seconds. Now lat pull over, last one. This works the lats again, the largest muscle in the upper body. It's such a big muscle, you really want to work it from every angle you can. And I always say to the women, you don't have to worry about building muscle and looking like a man. It's not going to happen unless you do steroids. And I always say to the guys, you don't have to worry about looking like a steroid freak unless you do steroids. You can only build so much muscle. But by increasing that lean muscle tissue, you're going to increase your calories, the number of calories that your body burns. Every single day, your body's going to burn more calories. And remember, the only time we store fat, the only time we get fat, is when we're consuming more calories than our body burns. So if by increasing lean muscle tissue, our body burns more calories, even when we're sitting, even when we're sleeping, you want that muscle tissue. Goal is to put about 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 pounds of muscle on your body. That'll increase your metabolism so your body burns close to an extra 500 calories every day. All right, so that completes your chest fly, your standing row, your lat pull down, your chest butterfly, and your lat pull over. So now we've got 2 more exercises. And these are, for most people, excuse me. Come on. For most people, the only band that we're ever going to use the blue band for. By the way, most of the sets, when you buy these sets of bands, they come with regular carabiners. These are called S-beaners. You can pick these up at a hardware store for about $4 or $5 a piece, and it just makes, as you change from one band to another, it makes it so much easier. Now also on the blue band, you'll notice you've got the marks that I made in the middle, but I also made marks here out at the end so that you know exactly where the placement of your foot is going to go, because on this band or for this exercise, I should say, what you're gonna do is you're gonna just do one side at a time. You're gonna use a nice little short piece. And this exercise here is for your trapezius muscle, possibly one of the most neglected muscles in the upper body. Believe it or not, it's the second largest muscle in the upper body, and its main function is to support and stabilize your head all day long. Kind of an important muscle. Now, it's a very short movement, so you got to make sure you keep that muscle contracted. None of this. Got to go super slow. Remember, that first movement only does 20% of the work, so super slow on the second movement. Nice and slow. And I'm going to do this one again for a minute. And then I'm going to do this exercise for the love handles. Most of the other abdominal exercises that are part of this routine are split up between the leg routines. This is the only one that we're going to add to the upper body, just so you can keep moving from one exercise to another, keeping the heart rate at the right level. So 7 exercises, approximately 1 minute per exercise. That's 21 minutes. Remember, the definition of a cardiovascular workout is you've got to get the heart rate up between 50 and 70% of your max and sustain it there for 20 minutes. I don't think anyone can honestly say, I can't fit a 20-minute or a 30-minute workout into my schedule. 24 hours a day, 24 hours. Take care of your health and fitness. Spend half of 1 hour taking care of your body. And usually when I do this, instead of doing all 3 on one side, I'm going to give my traps a little break, and I'm going to go from right to left. So again, I've got a position. Super, super slow. When I said ages 6 to 102, I've actually trained children as young as 6 and a gentleman as old as 102 with these bands. I've trained people in this band with these bands that were sitting in chairs because of different limitations that they had. You might not be able to do every single one of these exercises, but I guarantee it'll make a huge difference if you do the ones that you can. Again, some of these sets you can get for less than 30, 40 bucks. Even if you upgrade with the S-beaners and better ankle straps and work out at home. Don't have to hire a personal trainer. Be a member of a gym. Don't have to do any of that. We've attempted to take away all the excuses. So 5 different routines, and this is part 1. You do 1 of these each day. 7 days a week, you work out 5 of them. Take 2 off. Definitely need to learn how to program my iPhone so it dings every 60 seconds because it's hard to keep an eye on that clock and talk at the same time. Not good at multitasking. to see a set of these bands in every single person's home. I would love to be able to see them in schools and churches and office buildings. This really takes away all the excuses that people have for working out. Most people have a half hour, 45, some people have a 1 hour lunch break. You could get through your entire workout program in your office, because that's where we're at right now, in an office. Call this the No Excuses Workout Program. And of course I'd go back and do the left side. This, for people that already have a set of bands, you can actually buy something very similar to this at Meijer's for like $5. It's I'm sure it's just a piece of PVC pipe that's cut, sewn in there. And what this does is it slams behind your door like that and allows you to take your band and stick it right through here to create the angle of all those different exercises I just showed you. It's really amazing. So if you've already got a good set of bands, you don't even need to buy a new set of bands. Just get this door jam anchor is what they're called. So that is part 1, if you will, of this routine. The next 4 parts coming soon. Thank you.